All right, welcome back to the 21 Boom Guided Meditation Series. I'll be your guide. I'm Coach Zach Feeney. Um, Stress affects everyone. I don't know a single person who doesn't get stressed, but unfortunately, it plays a major role in illness. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, in fact, up to 90% of doctor visits in the U.S. may be stress related. Meditation is an antidote to stress, just as an aspirin can counter a headache. A regular practice can be a major boost to health. It calms the nervous system, it's good for the immune system, it's also good for the heart. It helps produce nitric oxide, not nitrous oxide, that's laughing gas, in the arteries, dilating them and reducing blood pressure. It also smooths heart rhythms. But thanks to an explosion of brain research, we now know that it also physically impacts our gray matter. One study to show this was led by scientists of the Center for Functionally Integrative Neuroscience at Aarhus University in Denmark. Comparing MRI scans of the brains of meditators with the brains of non-meditators, they showed that meditation causes actual physical changes in the gray matter of the lower brain stem. Meditation makes the gray matter grow. In another study, scientists Giuseppe Rigoni and Mios Sikik from the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences of Emory University in Atlanta compared the volume of gray matter in the brains of people performing Zen meditations with another group who were not meditators. The volume of our gray matter normally reduces as we get older, and this is what the scientists found in the group of non-meditators. But for the meditators, their gray matter hadn't reduced at all with age. According to the scientists, meditation had a neuroprotective effect on the meditators. It protected the brain from some of the effects of aging. This mirrors some 2008 Harvard research that analyzed the genes of meditators against non-meditators. It was the first study of its kind to measure the genetic impact of meditation and found that 2,209 genes were differently activated in long-term meditation practitioners compared with non-meditators. And even looking at novice meditators, they found that 1,561 genes were affected after only 8 weeks of meditation practice. They concluded that the genetic effects of meditation may have long-term physiological consequences, one of which was a slowing down of the rate of aging. We have all heard the stories of people under extreme stress whose hair turns white in a matter of weeks. We know that stress can speed up aging. So why should it be a surprise to us that a technique to combat stress should be able to slow aging? There are many different forms of meditation. A study at Massachusetts General Hospital examined the impact of the Buddhist insight meditation on the brain. Insight meditation is a technique of moving our attention over the body or focusing on our breath. The study found that it caused an increase in thickness of the prefrontal cortex in the brain, the part just above the eyes and associated with attention. Several areas of the brain are active when we meditate, but most pronounced is the prefrontal cortex, because when we meditate, we are focusing our attention on something, whether that be the body, our breathing, a word, a candle, or even a spiritual ideal. When this area is active, just like a muscle being exercised, it grows. Neuroscientists use this analogy to describe the way the brain changes. When we exercise a muscle, it becomes larger and denser with muscle mass. In a similar way, when we exercise any part of the brain, which we do when we meditate, it becomes larger and denser with neural mass, gray matter. The phenomenon is known as neuroplasticity and describes how the brain actually changes throughout life. I've learned that the brain is hardwired once, I was taught younger, as most of us were, that the brain is hardwired once we reach young adulthood. And the analogy used is that when we are young, the brain is a bit like dough, which can be kneaded into various forms. But when we reach young adulthood, we put the dough in the oven and it comes out with a bread crust on it. The brain is then hardwired, we were taught. But this analogy has since been abandoned. We know now that we never put the dough in the oven. Our gray matter is ever changing as we experience life, as we learn, walk, run, dance, and when we concentrate, as we do when we meditate. Our gray matter is changing until the last seconds of our life. It grows even with our last breath. So at this point in your practice, you may be noticing just how busy the mind is with replays of past events, expectations, fears about the future, or evaluations of present experience. I like this, don't like that, when will this be over, etc. It can seem that the object of meditation is to get rid of all thoughts and distractions, and when that isn't happening, you may feel like you are failing at meditation, and or the meditation can turn into a struggle, wanting your experience to be different than it is. In fact, the kind of meditation you are learning is more about working skillfully with any internal or external experience, and isn't really about getting rid of thoughts and distractions. In fact, it can be said that wandering thoughts are the weights that train the muscles of the mind. The practice of meditation is not really about establishing inner stillness. The moments of stillness are one of meditation's byproducts, not the practice itself. It might be good to clarify a few common misunderstandings about meditation right off the bat. First, meditation is best thought of as a way of being rather than a technique of or a collection of techniques. I'll say it again. Meditation is a way of being, not a technique. This doesn't mean that there aren't methods and techniques associated with meditation practice. There are, in fact, there are hundreds of them, and we will be making good use of some of them. But without understanding that all techniques are orientating vehicles pointing at ways of being in relationship to the present moment, and to one's own mind and one's own experience, we can easily get lost in techniques and in our misguided but entirely understandable attempts to use them to get somewhere else and experience some special result or state that we think is the goal of it all. Second, meditation is not a relaxation spelled differently. Perhaps I should say that again as well. Meditation is not relaxation spelled differently. That doesn't mean that meditation is not frequently accompanied by profound states of relaxation and by deep feelings of well-being. Of course it is, or can be sometimes. But mindfulness meditation is the embrace of any and all mind states in awareness without preferring one to another. From the point of view of mindfulness practice, pain or anguish, or for that matter, boredom or impatience or frustration or anxiety or tension in the body, are all equally valid objects of our attention if we find them arising in the present moment. Each a rich opportunity for insight and learning and potentially for liberation, rather than signs that our meditation practice is not succeeding because we are not feeling relaxed or experiencing bliss in some moment. We might say that meditation is really a way of being appropriate to the circumstances one finds oneself in any and every moment. If we are caught up in the preoccupations of our own mind, in that moment we cannot be present in an appropriate way, or perhaps at all. We will bring an agenda of some kind to whatever we say or do or think, even if we don't know it. For meditation, and especially mindfulness meditation, is not the throwing of a switch and catapulting yourself anywhere, nor is it entertaining certain thoughts and getting rid of others, nor is it making your mind blank or willing yourself to be peaceful or relaxed. It is really an inward gesture that inclines the heart and mind, seen as one seamless whole, toward a full spectrum awareness of the present moment just as it is, accepting whatever is happening simply because it is already happening. Meditation is not about trying to get anywhere else. It is about allowing yourself to be exactly where you are and as you are, and for the world to be exactly as it is in this moment as well. This is not so easy, since there is always something that we can rightly find fault with if we stay inside our thinking. And so there tends to be great resistance on the part of the mind and body to settle into things just as they are, even for a moment. That resistance to what is may be even more compounded if we are meditating because we hope that by doing so we can affect change, make things different, improve our own lives, and contribute to improving the lot of the world. So from the point of view of awareness, any state of mind is a meditative state, Anger or sadness is just as interesting and useful and valid to look into as enthusiasm or delight, and far more valuable than a blank mind, a mind that is incessant, out of touch. Anger, fear, terror, sadness, resentment, impatience, enthusiasm, delight, confusion, disgust, contempt, envy, rage, lust, even dullness, doubt, and torpor. In fact, all mind states and body states are occasions to know ourselves better if we can stop, look, and listen. In other words, if we can come to our senses and be intimate with what presents itself in awareness in any and every moment. The astonishing thing, so counterintuitive, is that nothing else needs to happen. We can give up trying to make something special occur. And letting go of wanting something special to occur, maybe we can realize that something very special is already occurring and is always occurring, namely life emerging in each moment as awareness itself. How can we be mindful of the mind in the mind? Just as there's a river of bodily sensations passing through consciousness, just as there's a river of 500 emotions passing through us, there is also a river of thoughts. If you try to sit silently for a minute, what happens? Does your mind become quiet and stay quiet? The mind will not become quiet upon command. Instead, what most people experience is the inner waterfall, a cascading stream of thoughts. It's like a cartoon I saw once of a car crossing a vast desert landscape, where a roadside sign says, "Your own tedious thoughts the next 200 miles." One scientist declared that we have an average of about 67,000 thoughts a day. I think it's probably closer to 37,000, but whatever the number is, the river of thoughts is not under your control. And these thoughts have very little honesty. They will tell you any kind of story and be dedicated to many beliefs that are absurd. Much of the river is composed of reruns. It's like not being able to sleep in a hotel room and you pick up the remote control and turn on the TV. But all you can get are the cable shopping stations selling cheap jewelry and gimmicky kitchen gadgets with a breathless sense of urgency that just goes on and on. But in your case, it's reruns of your last love affair or of a conversation you had at work, or anxiety and shame about some problem, or anger at being treated poorly by someone in your distant past. No matter what you wish, you have trouble changing the channel. The whole parade just keeps repeating and repeating without resolution. It can be really crazy in there. Have you noticed? What can you do with your thoughts, especially the stories of anxiety and fear? With mindfulness of the mind, you come to realize that much of what you believe is the product of your imagination. Thoughts can be misleading in many ways. Your thoughts are filled with praise and blame, hope and fear. You will hear the voices of your parents internalized like monologues, sometimes appearing as the inner judge and the inner tyrant. Then are the voices of the unloved child or the ambitious achiever, voices who are always trying to fix or deceive us. There are healthy voices, wise voices, and loving voices too. But most of the time your thoughts are like a bureaucracy that continues to perpetuate itself even when the need for it has been outgrown, even when it's actually become unpleasant and restrictive and possibly dangerous to you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." So what can you do? With mindfulness, you can stop taking them so seriously. You can come to know that your thoughts make a good servant but not a good master. You can step back and listen to your thoughts mindfully and then decide whether they're useful or not. It's true that you still need some thoughts to plan for the future and to problem solve, but you could eliminate 90% of your thoughts and still have plenty to do the job. So the first thing you can do is to listen to your thoughts with mindful awareness. You will see the evanescent nature of thoughts, that they are fleeting ideas, all impermanent. And then you can begin to realize that just because you have a thought doesn't mean you have to believe it, much less act on it, and certainly not get caught up in the whole stream of them. You can release the mind of some of its more dangerous patterns. Observing the mind with mindfulness brings liberation. After you learn to see what's in your mind and learn to release or disidentify with the unhealthy patterns, you discover a deeper level of liberation. Sri Nisargadatta explained it like this: the mind creates the abyss and the heart crosses it. When you rest in the present moment with mindfulness, you open to a presence which is timeless and beyond the understanding of thought. It's by returning to the awareness beyond thoughts that you experience real healing. When your mind and heart open, you realize who you are, the timeless, limitless awareness behind all thought. Remembering who you really are, you see with the heart. You see the face of someone you love. You see the plum tree that's blooming in front of you. You may be sitting with someone who is grieving or angry, or maybe you're just walking back to your car. But now you're doing it while being fully awake. It's so beautiful to come back to this earth. Even in great difficulty, you can become aware that you are in the presence of mystery, and this experience alone is breathtaking in its power. For Nisargadatta, the mind creates the abyss of right and wrong, or of worries and fears that lead us away from this timeless presence. The only power that can cross this abyss is the awakened heart. Even if in difficulty, the awakened heart rests in love. As we observe our thoughts and question our beliefs, we come to understand that while thinking, planning, and remembering are vital to our lives, they are more tentative than we believe. Our thoughts are always more provisional and one-sided than we admit. Ordinarily, we believe them, but questioning our thoughts is at the heart of Buddhist practice. Is what we believe real, solid, certain? As writer Richard Haight observed, chief Roman nose of the Cheyenne and his people believed he was immortal, and he and they were right every day of his life except one. We believe our own thoughts and opinions. We become fundamentalists. There can be fundamentalist Buddhists, fundamentalist scientists, fundamentalist psychologists, but no matter how strongly we believe our perspective, there are always other points of view. In our personal relationships, this is really obvious. A relationship matures when each partner grants the possibility that the other may be right, though we may not always believe it. Most of our mental suffering comes from how tightly we hold our beliefs, thoughts, and perspectives. In the monastery, Ahan Ka used to smile and ask, is it true? He wanted us to learn to hold our thoughts lightly. In Buddhist training, our thoughts are deconstructed, the entire structure dismantled plank by plank. The Sufis illustrate the one-sidedness of our thought with a story from the Holy Fool. Mullah Nasruddin, a king disenchanted with his subjects dishonestly, decided to force them to tell the truth. When the city gates were opened one morning, gallows had been erected in front of them. A royal guard announced, "Whoever will enter the city must first answer a question which will be put to them by the captain of the guard." Mullah Nasruddin stepped forward first. The captain spoke. "Where are you going? Tell the truth. The alternative is death by hanging." "I am going," said Nasruddin, "to be hanged on those gallows." "I don't believe you," replied the guard. Nasruddin calmly replied, "Very well then. If I have told a lie, hang me. But that would make it the truth," said the confused guard. "Exactly," said Nasruddin, "your truth." When we are bothered by our thinking, Buddhist psychology tells us to ask, is it really true? If we listen from the heart, we will see how much trouble comes from believing stories that may never, not even be true. Ahan Shah said, "You have so many views and opinions, what's good and bad, right and wrong, about how things should be. You cling to your views and suffer so much. They are only views, you know." Within the stillness of meditation, we see the unreality of thought. We learn to observe how words and images arise and then vanish, leaving no trace. The succession of images and associations, often called mental proliferations, builds thoughts castles. But these castles, ideas, and plans float for a time, and then they disappear, like bubbles in a glass of soda. We can become so silent that we actually feel the subtle thought energy appear and vanish again. But if thoughts are empty, what can we rely upon? Where is our refuge? Here is how the Indian sage Nisargadatta answered this question. The mind creates the abyss, the heart crosses it. The thinking mind constructs views of right and wrong, good and bad, self and other. These are the abyss. When we let thoughts come and go without clinging, we can use thoughts, but we rest in the heart. We become more trusting and courageous. There is an innocence to the heart. We are the child of the Spirit, and there is an innate wisdom. We are the ancient one. Resting in the heart, we live in harmony with our breath, our body. Resting in the heart, our patience grows. We do not have to think it all through. Life is unfolding around us, as the Indian master Charan Smig put it. In time, even grass becomes milk. Of course, stories have value. As a teacher and storyteller, I can have come to respect their evocative power, but even these stories are like fingers pointing to the moon. At best, they replace a diluted cultural narrative or a misleading tale with a tale of compassion. They touch us and lead us back to the mystery here and now. And during individual meditations or meditations like these, I try to help people drop below the level of their story and see the beauty that shines all around them. Psychologist Len Bergantino writes about frustrating therapy sessions with a patient who was disconnected, detached, and aiming to please. The feeling I had on one particular day was I just didn't want to say one more word to him about anything. So to his surprise, I took out my mandolin, and in the most loving, mellow, beautiful way I could, I played Come Back to Sorrento. He broke down in tears and cried for the last 40 minutes of the session, saying only, "Dr. Bergantino, you sure earned your money today," I thought. And to think, I wasted all these years talking to people. When we drop below the stories, our hearts shines. Alright, so for the session today, when practicing sitting meditation, it is helpful to bring to the sitting posture itself a sense of dignity with the head, neck, and back erect but not rigid, with the shoulders relaxed and the hands comfortably placed in your lap or on your knees. Follow along with my instructions as best you can, and then use the stretch of silence to practice on your own. It is fine to sit on a chair or on the floor. As best you can, commit yourself to simply being fully awake, fully present for these moments. If you feel comfortable with it, allowing your eyes to gently close, otherwise letting your gaze fall and focus on the floor or on a wall, and just tuning into the feeling of the breath moving in and out of your body, focusing on the sensation of the breath moving past the nostrils, or alternatively on the feeling of your belly expanding on each in-breath and receding gently with each out-breath. And allowing yourself to just dwell here moment by moment, following the breath as it comes in and as it goes out, and bringing your attention back to the nostrils or to your belly, or anywhere else you have decided to focus on each time that you notice that your mind is going off somewhere else, wherever that may be. And if the mind wanders off 1,000 times, you simply bring it back 1,000 times, intentionally cultivating an attitude of patience and gentleness towards yourself. This means choosing as best you can not to react to or judge any of your thoughts or feelings, impulses, or perceptions. Reminding yourself instead that in this work of mindfulness, absolutely anything that comes into the field of awareness is okay. We simply sit with it and breathe with it and observe it, staying open and awake in the present moments, right here, right now. A continual process of seeing and letting be, seeing and letting go, rejecting nothing, pursuing nothing, dwelling in stillness and calmness as the breath moves in and out. At this moment, you can close your eyes, just riding the waves of your own breathing moment by moment, breath by breath. observing your body as a whole as it lies here breathing, capturing, if you can, the feeling of this very breath as it comes into your body, and the feeling of this very breath as it leaves your body. Feeling the breath moment by moment, inviting yourself over and over again to be fully awake, fully here right now in this moment with this breath. And every time you find your mind wandering off into thoughts of one kind or another, or into reverie, sleepiness, or anything else, as it so easily does, when you become aware of it, noting what it is on your mind and how your body is feeling, and then gently letting go of it, whatever it is, and without judging or evaluating yourself or anything else, simply bringing your attention back to the breath, back to your body lying here, breathing, perceiving any thoughts that come up, whether they be thoughts of the past or of the future, whether they have strong feelings associated with them or not, as passing events in the field of your consciousness, and without either pushing them away or pursuing them, dwelling behind them or beyond them, allowing yourself to be transparent to them, observing them together with the breath as they come and go, as you dwell here in stillness and calmness, giving full care and attention to each moment. Beyond my words, simply here, riding the waves of your own breathing, moment by moment, breath by breath, and just sustaining mindfulness in this way now, in silence. And as this session comes to an end, staying centered for a moment or two more in the sitting posture as the sound of whatever's going on around you recedes, experiencing the sound and the wakefulness it invites. And before getting up, you might find it of value to commit yourself right here and now to clarifying this wakefulness with you throughout your day, remembering that you can touch base with your breathing in any moment and thereby bring the mindfulness and calmness and clarity into the moment, that moment of your life, when and wherever it is as it is unfolding, and affirming as well the importance of regular formal practice, if possible every day. And gracefully and mindfully making the transition back into the world of activity and doing, perhaps lingering a little before you get up, honoring the stillness and the peacefulness of this moment, and knowing that this inner sense of stillness and calmness is always available to you by simply bringing your awareness to your breathing at any time as your day continues to unfold.